Imagine having a clear, unwavering feeling of purpose every day when you get up. By failures, ignoring the noise around you, and remaining steadfastly focused on what it sounds almost superhuman, doesn't it? But this was the case that really mattered. Daily life of Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and one of the most powerful individuals in ancient history, was a Stoic philosopher who left behind a note that has endured for millennia, are surprisingly relevant and not merely reflections of a past time, suggestions on how to use self-control in the middle of life's chaos. Today, we're delving deeply into Stoicism and examining its tenets, not our theoretical ideas but as useful instruments for leading a more orderly Stoicism in a fulfilled life. Shows us how to use hardship to our advantage, emotional upheaval into calm, and the uncertainty of life into a source of strength. Whether you're trying to improve your life, find inner peace, or deal with everyday challenges. Productivity. Gaining insight into the Stoic style of living provides significant insights in a world full of unending diversions and instant satisfaction. Stoic philosophy focuses on the qualities of, it's not just about living a long life, it's also about intelligence, courage, justice, and balance. If you're prepared to, it's about thriving in it regardless of what happens to you. Change the way you perceive and respond to life's obstacles. Stay tuned as we explore the Marcus Aurelius's profound life-changing lessons and how to use them to become a strong, regimented life. As we go out on our Stoic philosophical journey in the deepest lessons from Marcus the Fur, if you value what we're doing here, a straightforward free, please do me a favor by clicking the subscribe button and making sure not to miss any section of the video. Because, since you're here, you're unique, so treat yourself as such and stay. Watch this space for the unique ideas we'll discuss. At the core of Marcus Aurelius's philosophy is the conviction that the first step in self-discipline is to identify your purpose. But what does this actually entail? Identifying your basic motivations and what means most to you, then coordinating your daily activities with those. Marcus Aurelius frequently written on living in harmony with nature as part of his greater purpose, which in Stoic terminology refers to acting in accordance with your qualities and realizing your place in the greater scheme of things. The goal for Aurelius was not just a noble ideal, but also a useful compass that directed all of his choices from the routine to the monumental. He felt that knowing your mission in life is what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning and take on the challenges of the day. It's not about lofty accomplishments or outward appearances. Rather, it's what keeps you steady when temptations tempt you to veer. Honors, but about carrying out the responsibilities life has assigned you, completing each work with dedication and honesty in a contemporary setting. Discovering your mission can frequently feel daunting. There are many options and diversions in our world that can cause us to stray from our actual trajectories. When Stoic wisdom is not only beneficial but also necessary, it teaches us to remove the layers of ephemeral feelings and shallow aspirations to uncover what is actually necessary for our growth and well-being. It prompts us to consider what is really valuable to me. Time and effort. How might what I do today advance the common good and my personal growth as we investigate ways to implement this idea in our daily life? Consider the things that you are drawn to and that bring you great joy, or what obstacles you are driven to overcome, are indicators of your mission. Once recognized, the Stoic daily reflection exercise is important because saying no to what doesn't serve you and yes to what does will help you consistently connect your actions with your purpose. You develop the self-control required to have a purposeful and influential life. Let's take this insight from Marcus Aurelius and put it into practice every day by asking yourself, what am I? Every morning, intended to do today, and I have been living in accordance with my objective every night for a long time. In addition to fostering self-discipline, this practice will make your life more meaningful. And when Marcus Aurelius wrote about self-discipline, it was a fulfilling journey. The significance of self-reliance was a recurrent theme in his reflections. Relying on oneself is not only about independence but also a crucial component of Stoic philosophy, which places a strong emphasis on individual responsibility. And being independent doesn't mean being alone or refusing help from others. Instead, It's about realizing that we are ultimately accountable for our deeds. Responses and personal development are rooted in Stoicism. The notion of paramount Aurelius frequently spoke about the need of concentrating on what we can control. Self-power to overcome any obstacles life presents by relying on ourselves and drawing on our. This idea of inner strength and resilience encourages us to have faith in our capacity to handle life's uncertainties and hardships. It's about gaining confidence via expertise and a person's ability to comprehensive knowledge of one's own abilities and qualities. This independence is freeing, but it also intimidating in the linked world of today, where thoughts and guidance are continuously. With our inner voice at our fingertips, it can be difficult to learn to listen to it. But Aurelius thought that Stoicism taught us to ignore the cacophony and have faith in our well-reasoned conclusions. And since this internal guidance is based on morality and reason, it is the most trustworthy advice one could have. By relying on ourselves, we also get independence in our decision-making, which empowers us to make decisions that, instead of being influenced by outside forces or fleeting emotions, are consistent with our values and principles. This independence is essential to upholding one's moral character and leading a life. How do we begin to genuinely rely on ourselves when that is true for each individual? Setting personal objectives and working toward them, as well as establishing promises and keeping them, are the first steps. Freely and reflecting on our choices and how well they accord over time, these practices help us become more self-disciplined in accordance with our basic principles, which makes us greater fortitude and stability in the face of adversity. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly underlined the importance of perseverance in turning up not only in every day. This practice is not about making monumental efforts in the body but in the spirit, unleashed occasionally, but about the calm, consistent commitment to everyday duties that everyone worked together to create a disciplined existence. For Aurelius, who showed up each day, was, for him, nature is identical with the Stoic notion of living in harmony with it. Required us to actively engage in life rather than merely exist in order to contribute to the world by our daily deeds, no matter how minor or ordinary they may appear. Itself as a new arena for demonstrating one's dedication rather than for big fights. To their values and obligations, it's in the regularity of their work. Where, in a world where diversions are common, character is developed and tested. Many motives can be short-lived, such as the desire to demonstrate daily progress, even greater relevance. It's simple to feel motivated one day and totally disconnected the next. See what Stoicism teaches us about the importance of consistency is the regularity of our behaviors, rather than their intensity that fosters genuine discipline, which does not imply that each day must be a masterpiece of output. Rather, it's about making sure no day goes by unrecognized or unused, whether it's developing professionally, being healthier, or strengthening our relationship. Advancement in any field necessitates the basic, much disregarded dedication to being present every day, in addition to the fact that being present daily is profoundly entwined with the Stoic discipline of mindfulness, which involves being in the present moment and carrying out today's tasks free from the weight of yesterday's shortcomings. Or Marcus Aurelius talked extensively about concentrating on the here and now, and performing the focusing on the task at hand to the best of one's ability is what makes routine into custom and work into enhancement. To foster this discipline, begin modestly. Choose what it means to you to show up. It may be as easy as writing a paragraph from the book you've been reading. The scale is used to indicate whether to write 5 minutes of exercise or 10 uninterrupted minutes with a loved one. The act of turning up every day you meet is what changes us, not the other way around. Your dedication, you strengthen your resolve, and the soul will progressively return to its Stoic philosophy. By embracing this daily routine, you exemplify the Stoic idea of individual accountability and ongoing self-improvement, makes you a living example of the notion that, even though we have no control over the results, we can regulate our efforts by regularly turning up. We discover the discipline. Need to live a meaningful and satisfying life. This Stoic Marcus Aurelius's strongly recommended practice encompasses much more than merely making life purposefully challenging in order to get ready for the life's unpredictable events. Fortifying one's fortitude and strengthening enjoyment of one's possessions. Marcus Aurelius, like many Stoics, thought, consciously feeling uncomfortable strengthens the mind against times. When life presents us with discomfort, we may have to make the decision to forego certain pleasures while facing physical obstacles or just engaging with self-denial in little. The reasoning behind daily decisions is simple. If you're used to suffering, unexpected difficulties won't throw you off balance. You're practicing your resilience muscles when you're off balance, so to speak. You can handle life's obstacles with composure, but why not embrace discomfort in a world where comfort is always being offered as the solution? Resides in the foundation of Stoic philosophy, and development frequently occurs at the boundaries of comfort zones by willingly entering less cozy areas. We not only challenge, but also broaden our emotional and mental limits. Instead of hurting oneself, practice involves changing one's viewpoint from considering comfort to be a need to viewing. If we choose to practice voluntarily, we may live without it as a luxury. Difficulty, you also learn to be grateful, and it's simple to take daily comforts for granted. But you start to value them more deeply when you go without them for a while. This may be as easy as choosing to exercise rather than eat, which can increase your appreciation for the food you do have, or drive that could increase your appreciation for your health and mobility. The reality that many individuals unintentionally deal with on a daily basis is connected to us by voluntary hardship, can promote humility, empathy, and a greater comprehension of the human condition, strengthening our sense of groundedness in the shared reality of the world. So how can we begin incorporating this practice into our daily lives? Pick something small and doable, like getting up an hour earlier than normal or limiting your usage of electronics for a. The key isn't in the scale of the elevator, so take the stairs instead. The difficulty, but in the consistency and purpose of each act of a step toward increased mental toughness and resilience, is voluntary suffering. The concept of self-discipline urges us to concentrate by differentiating between what is and is not under our control. Focusing only on the former, this seemingly straightforward idea can significantly change the way we handle life's obstacles, lowering stress and promoting a greater sense of calm and resilience. So in terms of Stoicism, what precisely is under our control? Mostly our own behaviors, responses, and assessments, as well as our ideas, volition, and these are the arenas where we have agency over everything outside of ourselves, when external circumstances or other people's behavior are beyond our direct control. In his meditations, Marcus Aurelius frequently underlined this idea, pointing out that becoming angry or concerned over circumstances beyond our control is not simply pointless, but detrimental to our well-being. Using the contrast between control begins when we recognize that we have the power to affect outside circumstances. The Stoic learns to understand that we cannot completely control them. As a freeing truth, but passively, by concentrating on our own deeds and allowing. By letting go of our focus on results, we may remain calm and productive no matter what situations. We interact with the world more rather than becoming apathetic or distant from it, productively directing our efforts in areas where they may truly impact day-to-day living by utilizing the asking oneself, "Is this within my control?" is known as the dichotomy of control. If a scenario isn't Stoic, let it happen before responding to it. It's easier said than done, and it obviously takes practice, so go ahead and go on, being mindful and periodically reminding us of our innermost thoughts. Furthermore, this technique has useful ramifications for our sphere of influence. How we set objectives and anticipate results as we work to fulfill our DET is discouraged by goals that link our enjoyment or sense of value to the achievement of results. Many outside influences are causing us to become frustrated, but Stoicism teaches us to find fulfillment in the quest itself by upholding our moral principles. Marcus Aurelius and other Stoic thinkers did the same in the endeavor we made. They provided a method for preserving inner serenity and dignity, rather than promising a life free of difficulties. Regardless of the highs and lows of life, by consistently applying this principle, we not only improve our own lives, but also have an impact on others by setting a calm and resilient example. Given the unavoidable uncertainties of life, this idea entails a deep awareness of one's own responsibilities and a stoic resolve to control oneself, rather than give up to a victim mindset in which one considers themselves to be a helpless victim of Stoicism. Inspires us to take charge of our thoughts and responses in the face of life's challenges. Empowerment is essential to the Stoic idea that our contentment and tranquility are more influenced by our inner state than by outside circumstances. The purpose here is not to minimize the challenges or injustices that one may encounter. Instead, it's about turning the attention from what occurs to us to how we react to what occurs. Aurelius thought that each outside event had an option regarding how, by refusing to play the victim and rejecting the notion, would we allow this to define who we are? That our mental health is dependent on outside factors, which is a freeing insight that makes it possible to use this approach with greater resilience and personal growth. We begin by examining our typical reactions to difficult circumstances. Do we instantly search for? Do we waste our efforts whining about outside influences or other people who are to blame? The issue, instead of dealing with it, altering these trends, isn't about suppressing our emotions, instead of better comprehending them and refocusing our energy. In a positive way, it entails accepting our sorrows and setbacks while also appreciating our ability to go on. Despite them, this Stoic teaching urges us to view every challenge as a chance to do better. Virtue and fortify our moral fiber, this viewpoint is essentially proactive. And empowering it turns possible helplessness into moments of empowerment. Every obstacle becomes a test of our ability to make decisions where we can exercise our agency. Dedication to our principles, and a chance to exhibit tenacity, fortitude, and perseverance that exemplify the Stoic principle of emotional independence by never taking the victim role. Create an internal stronghold of serenity and composure from which we can interact with the world more completely and freely, which does not imply losing feeling or indifferent, but rather reaching a condition in which life's ups and downs don't often ruin our delight. In this manner, we live in accordance with our circumstances rather than at their whim. Our core values, despite the challenges life presents. Marcus Aurelius promoted this idea as a means of achieving greater freedom, as well as a personal discipline. The Stoic perspective on satisfaction holds that controlling one's impulses by postponing fulfillment is about reaching a higher level of fulfillment rather than rejecting pleasure. That is in line with one's principles, and long-term objectives. Postponed satisfaction in the Stoic sense is deliberately delaying one's immediate desires to make decisions that will lead to more substantial and long-lasting rewards. May not provide immediate gratification, but result in long-term well-being and personal growth. This idea is especially pertinent in our contemporary society of quick gratification, where the capacity to Stoics possess a rare and valuable ability to wait for something better. Delaying gratification, according to Aurelius, was a strategy for preserving control over one's wants. That being enslaved to transient pleasures may result in a loss of freedom, since one is forced to their desires and inclinations instead by being disciplined and selecting by acting with logic and preparation. We foster a life that is not merely of fleeting enjoyments, but of long-term peace and satisfaction through the use of postponed. In daily life, satisfaction might begin with small routines that could save money instead of spending it carelessly, opting for a nutritious meal instead of fast food, setting aside time for studying, or instead of choosing instant pleasure activities. Every one of us should practice a skill. These decisions support the Stoic principle of putting long-term gains ahead of immediate convenience or pleasure, in addition to the advantages of this approach, which include thorough research and the Stoic idea that delayed pleasure leads to better outcomes is supported by psychology. Results in health, relationships, and career education for those who can delay gratification are frequently more adept at managing stress, achieving their objectives, and leading happier, healthier lives. This idea involves developing mental resilience rather than just ignoring unfavorable comments. It enables you to maintain your resolve and commitment to your objectives despite uncertainty. And for Stoics, other people's cynicism regarding their approval or disapproval is outside of one's control. making it unreliable for personal validation or direction. Marcus Aurelius spoke a lot about concentrating solely on self-controllable behaviors and viewpoints, highlighting that genuine peace originates internally and is unaffected by criticism from others. This Stoic being indifferent is about keeping an internal locus of control, not about dismissing other people. It motivates us to weed out distractions that don't support our greater goals or our practical beliefs. In our contemporary environment, when there are many viewpoints and criticism is frequently just a click away, entails realizing that, although helpful criticism can be beneficial for development, unfounded criticism must not stop us from following our path. This distinction is essential to what Stoicism teaches us to assess the origin and purpose of the feedback we get. Is it well-informed? Is it a well-intentioned practice that is consistent with our basic values? Principle refers to developing a personal philosophy that is strong enough to resist outside influences. It's about being secure in your choices and deeds, not out of conceit, but rather from a profound knowledge of your own principles and goals, which is what Marcus has exercised on a daily basis as a person, pursuing virtue as well as a ruler. In the capacity to disregard skeptics in the complicated environment also improves our emotional. In a culture that values resilience, we become less reactive to criticism and more focused on our long-term goals. Frequently highlights how the social validation loop might transcend this cycle and be loyal to oneself, is uncommon and effective in adopting the Stoic habit of, by disregarding doubters, we are preserving not just our mental space but also making a conscious decision on where to focus our emotional energy is about preventing. This idea is based on the idea that outside noise diverts us from the interior conversation that really determines our life. With the conviction that a large portion of our education and growth as individuals originates from seeing and considering the lives people. It's not about mimicking clever people. Rather, it's about emulating those who have mastered the traits we want to cultivate. About improving our own judgment and character by taking inspiration from them. Despite becoming an emperor, Marcus Aurelius frequently wrote about how much he admired he saw the imitation of the traits of people in the past and today. Figures in order to absorb their qualities and talents for himself and other Stoic wisdom was not only academic understanding but also a useful manual for the greatest way to understand living well is to look at the behaviors of people who have put these ideas into practice. Effectively picking someone to aspire to in the context of Stoicism involves identifying persons who exhibit the Stoic wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance are qualities that have historical significance. People, peers, or even fictional characters from literature who exhibit traits such. The secret is to search for resilience, ethics, integrity, and logical thought. Those whose lives serve as a blueprint for overcoming obstacles with grace and, in order to use this principle today, we must carefully choose role models whose values coincide with our own. Aspirations. It's important to critically observe how these people navigate rather than merely admiring them. Their lives, make choices, and deal with hardships. This practice inspires us to consider what aspects of this person's methodology or frame of mind I can apply into my own life to enhance my behavior and decisions, while also copying prudent people assist in bridging the divide between abstract philosophical ideas and daily activities, offer a tangible illustration of how Stoic ideals might be lived out, which not only increases the accessibility of these principles, but also convincing since we can observe the real effects of Stoic virtues in the pursuit and imitation of individuals we admire. We are learning and improving ourselves in a dynamic way, wise people. It is an active method of self-improvement that strengthens our resolve to advance and achieve excellence by surrounding ourselves with positive role models, we hold ourselves to a high level of conduct, and making choices that move us closer to becoming the intelligent people we want to be is more than just reciting facts. It entails a thorough and thoughtful analysis of one's own ideas and behavior, and reactions throughout the day. The key is determining if these actions are consistent with one's Stoic principles and ideals. Traits like moderation, wisdom, justice, courage, and thus introspection process is important since it acts as a feedback loop that makes one more. For Stoics, being more aware of their choices and actions is important, but the goal of this daily review is not to focus on errors or engage in self-criticism, but learning is about observing and making adjustments from one's daily experiences and applying that understanding to continuously improve oneself. Marcus Aurelius employed this method to make sure he was not only carrying out his emperor duties, but also integrating this technique into modern life as a philosopher or human being can be very advantageous since it motivates us to take a calm moment at the conclusion of each day. During this period of introspection, you might ask yourself a number of important questions. How did I answer questions today? Did I behave morally, and what could I have performed better? When did I lose control, and why did I reflect? Answering these questions aids in your self-awareness development and directs you toward leading a more purposeful and intentional life. Additionally, at the conclusion of the day, this exercise might promote a sense of tranquility and fulfillment of every day, enabling one to deal with any residual worries or ideas by directly addressing issues instead of letting them fester till the next day can be particularly effective during our fast. A fast-paced world where it's simple to become distracted by everyday demands and lose sight of our longer-term objectives by reflecting on your day, you practice a compassionate yet strict kind of self-accountability that involves acknowledging your strengths and recognizing opportunities for development without passing judgment. This Stoic habit allows you to be both a student and a teacher on your life's journey, which strengthens your resilience and wisdom, continuously gaining knowledge from your personal experiences and making an effort to live up to the values that characterize Stoicism. Based on the following are two helpful excerpts from Marcus Aurelius's teachings. The first piece of advice is to concentrate on what you can manage and focus your energies on, is under your control, including your ideas, feelings, and behaviors. Concerning uncontrollable factors such as the views of others or outside events, just makes you feel more stressed by putting your attention on what you can do and letting go of what you can't control will achieve serenity and improve their ability to handle obstacles. Number 2. Exercise self-control. Building self-discipline and personal development. Through everyday regularity isn't about intermittent great efforts, but daily activities that are constant, daily goals that are tiny, and steadfastly adhere to them by taking steps like journaling for a few days or working out for 10 minutes, or spending time with those you care about are gradual stages that lead to overtime. This practice will help you live a more purposeful and happy life by requiring patience and great discipline. Can change how you live your life and how you perceive your days. I appreciate you participating, and I'm getting closer every day to the values you hold dear. As we embark on this exploration of Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius's timeless wisdom, keep in mind that each day is if you're eager to take a new step toward self-mastery and embrace the qualities that define a life well lived, take a closer look at one of the recommended videos that appears on your screen after you arrive. Enhances my channel, and we are appreciative. Until the next time, stay on living, purposefully and sensibly,